I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.
And welcome everybody to the Four Tales podcast, the first ever live stream of the Four Tales podcast. I'm your host, Kyrun Silva from Taurus Comics. Across the way is the lavender lover of Ace Blade, Danny J. Quick. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, bro. It's good to see you live and in living color.
I know,
How was
man.
your week?
It was all right. I've been mostly fiddling with this restream since, we wanted to go live for the first time. And it's coming out all right. I like the design I did.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
You even got us on the right sides of the screen. I like it. You're green and my purple.
I know. I try to do as best I can to make you happy. I mean, that's my whole job, is to make you happy in this podcast.
Well,
I don't care what anybody else does.
My whole job is to stress you out, it seems like.
And you do an amazing job at that. I'm just not going to lie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I do want to do one thing before we actually start. I do want to give a quick shout out to Michael Watson. He just got out of the hospital, was told by Freestyle Comics. He was battling COVID for a while. Mm-hmm. So, prayers out to Michael. I'm glad he's out, and hopefully he stays out.
I'm glad he's starting to feel better. I'm hoping he continues to recover, man. Mike is like just not seeing the show. For 2 weeks, it's been like a whole change in my schedule. So I'm glad he's doing better.
And I do want to also give another shout out to another comic creator, Luke Stone. Unfortunately, he is still in the hospital. He's been in there for a while, so hopefully he can bounce back quickly. Oh my God, we have our first viewer, Marvin Wynn. Wait, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Friend of the show, Marvin Wynn.
Friend and former guest of the show, Marvin Wynn.
Good morning, Marvin. But you know what? Speaking of guests, we have a great guest today. He is one of the founders of Seer Nova Comics and the Seer Nova platform. He is a writer and creator. And I'm probably gonna mess up his last name, which I hate doing, but that's okay. But it's we have Greg Moquin. Or is that incorrect?
You actually said that the right way.
Booyah. See? All right.
Kyrun says that all the time, but he goes and researches people's names because I know how he doesn't like to say people's names wrong, just like me. So,
all right. Growing up, 40 years of having people mess up my name, I hate messing up other people's names. So yes, that is like a phobia. It's a fear I have, and I don't want to do it to anybody else. So yes, I do research it. All right. So Greg, what's going on, sir? How you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah. Woke up like an hour ago.
Okay. All right. Me too, actually. Sun's just starting to rise, which fall is setting in. So right now, sun doesn't start to rise till like 6:30 because it's too damn early for doing this podcast again.
What part of the country are you in, Greg?
Upstate New York.
Okay. All right. So I'm closer to you than usually our guests are over there with Kyrun. So I'm always up and at them early in the morning. And then, Kyrun and the guests have to get up super early to be on the show.
Actually, no, you're wrong on that. We've only had one guest on the West Coast that's actually done our show yet. And that was Dan. The other two guests are on the West Coast bounced and just flaked.
Oh, that's true. You're right. You're right.
So my West Coast peeps, you are making me look bad. So
that's hilarious.
No, it's not. Don't do that. Anyway, Greg, how's it going, sir? Tell us about Seer Nova Comics, the platform itself, and what you're doing with really trying to promote comics, not just yours, but other people's comics.
So like back in 2017, me and Dylan, the other owner, we realized like it's pretty hard to like find a following doing indie comics. So we were learning and still learning the whole like creation of making a comic and all that other stuff, and to build an audience. So we're like, oh, well, we can, instead of just have a website for us, we can actually host a website full of other creators. And so we're doing that. We have like 92 comics on there now of just different people's comics. So that's pretty awesome. We're going to have like courses at some point probably, but right now we just started like services. And we have like a merch store, and we're going to have a comic book like web store in itself on there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So where did this concept of Seer Nova Comics come from? Like, was it directly from you? Was it collaboration between you and your partner? Or?
So I put a Craigslist ad like 2016, 2015 out, and I didn't actually know what I needed. Cause Google's a thing, but I didn't actually use Google. So I was just like, I think I need a graphic designer. So I put that in the Craigslist ad, and Dylan was the first person to answer the ad, and he's like, "Oh, I do graphic design, but like you don't need a graphic designer. You need like an artist." And I'm like, that sounds more right. So I'm like, and I need like a website designer and all that other stuff, and he does like a bunch of things. So we were talking for like a year, just like through text messaging. And then I finally met him after I moved back from Florida. I only lived there for like 3 months, and I was like, wow, I hate this. So I moved back. Then I met him in person, and we went to some like networking event together. And then after that, we just hung out every day and was like working on the business. And then we realized like instead of building a website just for us, we're like, oh, let's build a website around like other creators too. So the last like couple of years, we've been like more focusing on like finding creators on like social media to like connect with. But now we're trying to find like the fans side of that. And yeah, it's a little hard.
Fair enough.
Definitely a grind. I'll say about Florida. Living in Florida is going to Florida is good to visit, but living there is a whole nother thing. So I feel you on that. I have family who live in Florida, and even they hate it. So
I've never been to Florida. I've heard stories about this, but what's so bad about Florida between the two of you guys? Like, what do you guys think is the worst thing about it?
Everything. Like it's just an amalgamation of like it's always hot and muggy, and I mean depending on which parts you live in, of course. Like Orlando is cool, Miami is cool, but like Jacksonville is just hot and sweaty everywhere, and there's literal alligators that are in the street. Like it's ridiculous place. It really is ridiculous.
I was in Venice, Florida, which if no one knows where that is, it's like south, like very south of in Florida. I was like an hour or two away from like the Everglades. I was like, and it's just like old people everywhere. That's like most of Florida, but like Venice is like the community of like, oh, where are all the old people? We'll just go to Venice, Florida. That's where you'll find them.
That's where they all go to retire and then die. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. So with Seer Nova Comics, since it's no longer in Florida, you moved that out. And what was the first thing you did? Did you just create a comic yourself? Did you create the platform? And what was the first thing you wanted to do when you had that idea?
So I was writing a story back in 2014 or 2014. I started writing what is the Seer Chronicles now, but it was like in almost novel format, and it was like over 1,200 pages. And
Lord,
yeah, kind of like how Ace Blade was. It's first, yeah. So I wrote that, and then I was like, oh, well, this part doesn't need to be in here. So I took certain chunks out, and then that's either a solo series or I like completely scrap the idea, because not everything that you do is amazing all the time. So like I have solo series Ink. Yeah. So I have like Ink, and that's its own thing. And then I have another solo series called Scales, and all these other ones that branch off of that. But I wrote it in a way that if you don't want to read all of the comics, you don't need to. Certain things do connect, but like, so it's a better experience if you do. But like, you could just read like the Seer Chronicles, and that's like the core story. But every other story has its own thing going on too. So I started with that, and then I was like, oh, I need an artist. So after I got the script I did the first time for the first issue, but it wasn't completely edited all the way because I needed like an actual editor.
Editors are very good to have.
Yeah, my friend Drew at the time was like editing it because he went to school for like literature and stuff. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he's like, wow, you're like the Shakespeare of comics. I'm like, cool. You don't know any other comic creator. So thanks.
He's like, there's Stanley and there's Greg. That's all you need to know.
So yeah, I like how it all connects and stuff like that. I was like, oh, cool. Because I didn't know there's this whole community of like people, like you guys and a million others. I was like, yeah, I'm awesome. And then I went on Facebook and everywhere else, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of you.
No, man, it is awesome. I think that's one thing that we share as a creators is that all of us have this journey of, wanting to create. Like most of us either were reading comics or watching TV shows or whatever that got us interested in it, and then now we want to create something, but you don't know that there's already a community that's doing it, so you start doing stuff by yourself, and you have to learn. You have to jump all these hurdles, finding an editor, finding an artist, graphic designer, illustrator. Like if you're not an artist yourself, there's a whole learning process that you have to go through. And if you're not introduced through the community, you have to learn all that stuff yourself. So I think that's that's one of the things that, me and you share. Kyrun is an artist, so he's his job is, he has everything he needs right there. But
wow.
for us writers, having to learn, parts of the business, and then, parts of, what building a community looks like, building your own audience looks like, because all comic book people don't like the same things. There's a lot of variety that you can, find in comics. So you have to find in the comic community who likes what you're doing, and then you have to convince them to buy it, and then it's a whole journey. So yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
So as far as creating comic, then what do you find is the most difficult part of creating comic? Is that the actual writing process, finding their artist, the marketing side of things, so just getting the money to fund it?
Well, money is that's so annoying.
It would be nice if we could just do everything and not pay for it, huh?
Yeah. I still because I love like actually paying artists. Not love it because that's my paycheck, but like I like actually helping them and paying them because there's people that just flake and just don't. So the original artist for Seer Chronicles, like the first issue, and was going to be the original artist for that entire series, he actually came to me one time and asked if I could help him solve a problem that had nothing to do with me. But he's like, yeah, this one guy that lives in like California like didn't want to pay him, and he is from Brazil. I was like, oh, that's not good. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, do you want me to drive all the way to California? I'm very far away from there to like beat them up. I don't know what you want. He's like, oh, I don't know. Like, try to tell them because like maybe it's not translating well from Spanish to. I was like, oh, okay. And then I didn't even do that because he was just talking to the guy. And he's like, oh, I'll just take the loss. I'm like, you're going to take an entire comic book worth of money and just like,
snap.
He's like, yeah, I'll just not work with him again. I was like, that's insane.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Creators, pay your people. I don't care if you have differences, and there's like, I've seen people get mad because the artist is producing something that the writer just wasn't completely happy with, but you still got to pay them for their time. I mean, you can't just ghost them like that.
Yeah, like I paid that guy, but like after it was done and it was out, there was like some people, like creators, and even my girlfriend's dad, and like probably another person, they were reading it and they were not like they didn't hate it, but they were like, it transitioned very weird because parts of my script weren't even in the comic because the artist just didn't want to put it in because he couldn't translate it. All he had to do was ask me questions though, so that was kind of annoying. So that's why we're remastering that, and it's so much better now.
That communication part is hard. It's another thing that, I mean, that's just, people skills though. If you I know me, I'm an awkward person, so I don't like to necessarily ask people questions because I don't always want the answer. But especially when you're trying to create something that you wrote, you have to be able to communicate with people, and you have to, a lot of times you have to encourage them to communicate with you, because I know artists, and I'm not talking about you, Kyrun, because you're great, but
thank you for boosting my ego this entire episode. That's unusual.
Artists are mostly, really, kind of, they have their vision of what it's supposed to be, and they believe that it's right, and they're used to trusting their instincts. So, sometimes they're just not gonna ask you if they don't have to. They're not gonna try to communicate with you as the writer if they don't feel like they have to. And I've learned over the years to, especially with the artists that I worked with consistently, to just trust their instincts. Sometimes they can put something on a page that visually tells the story better than I wrote it. But that communication part, it saves a lot of time in the end, because if they draw 20 pages and 18 of them are wrong, it's like now we gotta start all the way back over. So that communication is tough, man.
Yeah.
I also want to add, a lot of us are introverts, and we don't like rocking the boat. Mm-hmm. So it's not that we feel like we know better. It's just that we're maybe hesitant to ask because we don't want to bother you. As writers, we're like, ooh, do I really want to talk to him? But like you're mentioning, when you get with an artist that you've been working with for a while, there's that synergy that you guys have. That after a while, you can trust them more and more. That you can be like, just put down a guy throwing another guy, and your artist is going to do something. Mm-hmm. And whereas where you get like maybe an artist that you worked with for the first time, you got to probably be a little bit more descriptive on like throwing him over his shoulder while he's throwing him into a wall and there's an explosion. I think it's just trust, just like on like basketball, football, or any sports. There's trust that comes with you guys working together more and more. Yeah,
I definitely trust the artist that we have now. It's very good. He really likes making destruction, and there's like a lot in just the first issue of that. So I was like, oh, that's pretty great. But it's like I'm kind of like it left a bad taste in my mouth on like someone that doesn't speak English was the artist, because I can't understand them that well. But our colorist that I use for everything, he's like from Indonesia, and I trust him completely just because he speaks enough English that he'll understand what I'm saying. There's like some that I have to say a certain thing in a certain way, so like he'll understand what I'm saying, but most of the time he gets what I'm trying to say. So that's awesome.
And with the integration of Facebook and social media, a lot of us are now starting to use artists from other countries, and you're going to have those communication blocks because of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, because our script is pretty descriptive. We don't have just like throw this guy into this wall. Like usually once Dylan like gets a hold of it, because I like write the script and then he goes through and edits it. So there should be like another editor, but like I'm not gonna get into that right now. But he goes through it and like adds all the descriptive stuff like certain camera shots and stuff. I'm like, well, that's kind of for the artist. Like the artist kind of does that. And he's like, well, for certain ones, I'll do it. I was like, okay, whatever. But
I've had that experience too, man. It's like I'd say when my first couple of Ace Blade comics, you know, my panels were very descriptive for the artist because, you know, he's in another country and I'm not familiar with him. But then when Wally started drawing Ace Blade, it was more, I'm just telling them what happens on the page, you know. He leaps out of the window and, you know, and you see him falling down the building and he can make that into 4 panels. And then, you know, working with Kyrun, like I recently commissioned Kyrun for something. And I literally just had to say, hey, I want these two characters jumping away from an explosion. And he took that and, you know, he killed it. So I think it's really weird. It's weird and it's good, you know, having people from different backgrounds that you have to communicate with differently.
Yeah.
So what's the long-term goals as far as Seer Nova Comics? Like, when do you see yourself doing 5 years from now with this thing?
I'm hoping within another year and a half or a year, I don't have to go to my overnight job and I can just do this.
All right.
Once I get a house, I'm planning on having like my own area. So, because I'm back home with my mom right now to save up for a house. So once I get a house, I plan on having like a room like Danny has, or even Kyrun. Like you have like your little area. I have my room. Right.
Bro, this is just the front entrance to my house.
Yeah. He has like his own room though. Danny has.
This is my garage. My wife used to use it as a hair salon, and I kicked her out, and I just took it over. That's all.
But you still have your own room though, so that's we don't have our own rooms. Like,
yeah, I guess, you know,
especially not one that's painted purple everywhere.
Yeah.
If I told my wife I'm gonna paint the walls green in this room, she would kick me out the house. So.
You never know until you try. This was actually a birthday gift for my wife. She was like, "Hey, here's some purple paint. Have at it." I was like, "Thank you, babe. That's nice."
Yeah. Again, if I told my wife I want a room green, she'd be like, "Yeah, go outside, build yourself a little house, and you can stay in there and paint it green."
Yeah, even if I had like a shed or something, because my friends at Catalyst Comic Studio, they like have a shed, and that's their like whole studio space. Like they rebuilt. Not rebuilt the shed, but like inside they gutted it to make it, you know, a studio, and a workspace. So that's pretty cool.
It's good having your own space, though. I'll be honest with you. My son, he's a crafter. You know, they have these YouTube crafters now. This dude can make anything out of cardboard, and I always find my stuff missing in here. Like my backs and boards are always gone. My boxes. You know, my Gemini mailers, he's ripping them apart. I'm like, man, I need this stuff. You can't just come in here stealing my material.
Bro, that's inventory. You gotta count that for taxes and stuff. You can't be breaking it.
Like, this will do, but you know, that's part of it. So
all right. Well, it might be a good time for us to maybe take a quick turn and do Danny's quick takes.
Awesome. I'm ready.
Now, if this is your first time listening to our podcast, or even, of course, everybody's first time watching the live stream, this is Danny's Quick Takes, where Danny has 5 questions for our guest. He has scoured and stalked their social media to find interesting questions for them to answer. They're going to have 45 seconds to answer it. At the end of the 45 seconds, they will have a buzzer to let them know they cannot answer anymore. All right. So, Danny, whenever you are ready, And I have something I want to try with this. So if we're going to have it go the full 45 seconds, because I just want to make sure it works properly what I have set up.
Okay.
All right.
Give it a shot. So, Greg, I hope you know I'm thankful that you actually post on social media, because, a lot of times it's hard to stalk people. Like, I have to go to other social media platforms. But I found a plethora of interesting stuff about you on Facebook. So
Greg is pretty much an open book on Facebook, it seems like.
But I think I found some fun stuff to ask you, and I just want to see your honest opinion about it. So here we go. First question: Twinkies or ice cream, and why?
Ice cream.
Why?
Mint chocolate chips better than Twinkies. I don't like Twinkies. I do like Twinkies, but I only had Twinkies like twice ever in my life. So.
Really?
Yep.
Twinkies are an amazing dessert. It's just like they're just so convenient though. It's like just pop a Twinkie.
Yeah. But I like mixing the ice cream in the bowl until it's like a porridge. Because weird.
What's your favorite? So mint chocolate is your favorite ice cream?
Mint chocolate, probably, yeah.
I'm a butter pecan guy. I love butter pecan, but specifically Bluebell butter pecan. Absolutely. Byron is lactose intolerant, so he doesn't eat ice cream. I love that. I love it.
And I'm not lactose intolerant. I actually like caramel salted pecan.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, question number 2. I saw a meme that you posted about a year ago, and it made me wonder if you found the answer.
Wait, damn, a year ago?
A year ago.
You really do stalk these people's pages.
Absolutely. So I wanted to see if you found the answer to it or not. And the meme was basically said, is there a good way to know when you're in the good old days before you leave them?
The Office.
The Office is a great show.
Don't have an answer to that.
It's a great show.
It's a very good quote that actually gives me I don't get emotional that much, but that actually gets me emotional anytime he says that in that show. The million times I watch that.
You're running out of time, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
You don't want to see Danny's face spin up again.
No, I don't. I don't have an answer to that question.
I think we can all agree that The Office is one of the best shows ever created.
Yeah. There's your face there.
Fun fact, I just watched The Office for the first time this past summer.
Really?
Yeah. And it's only because of a local radio show, sports radio show I listened to. One of the hosts was a huge Office fan. And I was talking to him on social media. I was like, I've never seen Office. He's like, you can't listen to my show again until you've at least seen a couple episodes. So I started watching it, and the next thing I know, I'm just binging it every day. Yeah. My family's like, you're watching The Office again, aren't you? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. That, and now I'm watching Monk. Monk is what I'm watching right now.
Okay.
Okay. Question number 3. As a fellow indie comicer, self-published creator, what is the best way to ship physical comics?
Gemini mailer.
Gemini mailers.
Yeah. I have had people say that they are shipping it in Gemini mailer, and then I receive it, and it's like a dusty envelope. It's not Gemini. Because I had a mailman, actually, the apartment I was at last. I got home, and the mailman's trying to shove it into the mailbox. I'm like, that's not gonna fit in there, bud. And he's like, huh? I'm like, don't put that in the mailbox. It's gonna ruin it. And he's like, oh, okay. So he handed it to me. Then he had a whole conversation about comic books. So that's kind of cool that sprung the conversation. Even though I didn't want to have the conversation, but yeah.
It's I've grown to love the Gemini mailers, and they're surprisingly not expensive right now. So, I say invest in Gemini mailers also. Okay. I saw a tattoo that you got, the Deadpool tattoo that you got. I love it. It's amazing. Great art, great place to put a tattoo. I'm sure it hurt a lot, but my fourth question is: you can only get one more tattoo for the rest of your life. What is it, and where do you put it?
Probably one of my main characters in my comics. And I don't know if I want to get my one tattoo artist character because that's literally my tattoo artist. So that'd be kind of weird. Even though he's a pretty cool character. So probably like John Benson. That's like one of the main characters in Seer Chronicles. And they would probably either be on my leg or somewhere on the same arm as Deadpool.
I love it. Is that the only one you have, or do you have more?
Oh, I have this whole arm.
Oh,
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to know where you have any other ones. I'm sorry. We're trying to keep this PG.
Got a nice
possible.
butterfly on the back.
I have a tramp stamp of Danny on mine, so.
Oh.
We don't like to talk about that though. I got the one spade and crown for Ace Blade and King Supreme. And that will be the only tattoos I ever get.
Did it hurt?
Right. Yeah.
I cried, and I'm not good with pain, so. But
I stare at the tattoo needles as it goes because there's like 3 depending on what kind of needle it is. I'm staring at it as it like goes into the skin. He's like, "You're weird." The tattoo artist saying that.
No, I'm not about that life. My wife has 4 tattoos, and she's always like, "I want to get another one." I'm like, "I don't understand you people," but cool. Oh, so last question. You post a lot of food. You post a lot of meals that you have, and they're all good. They all look great. Every time I see one of your meals that you post, I'm like, man, I wish I had that for dinner or lunch or whatever. So I want you to describe your perfect breakfast, your perfect lunch, and your perfect dinner.
Cool. When I actually eat all those in a day. I'd say oatmeal, but no. Probably like just eggs, sausage, and like pancakes. Probably like very good breakfast. Lunch, I don't know, grilled cheese and like potato chips or something. Or a burger, I don't know. And then dinner, maybe shepherd's pie or mac and cheese, depending on, I don't know. I like different foods.
I thought you were going to come up with some like grandiose meal plan or day or something like that. I'm like, I just like chips and sandwiches and eggs.
What is in a shepherd's pie? I've seen it before, but I've never had it.
So it's mashed potatoes, corn, and beef. Sometimes people put peas in it because they're not normal. I don't like peas.
There's no peas in the shepherd's pie. Okay,
Right.
I love it. That's our quick takes for today. I appreciate you playing along with us.
Yeah.
All right. Wait, I got one more. So, and it's for both of you guys. And I just thought of this off the top of my head while we're talking. Where is the weirdest place you've sold a comic?
Ooh. In a bathroom at work.
Okay, wait. We won't come back to that. I want Greg to answer. We won't come back to that, though.
Well, I haven't sold many yet, but I guess I met my friend. It's not weird, but I met my friend outside of like a Stewart's, which is like a gas station. I sold it there to him. So there's no really weird place that I've sold a comic yet. So
Okay.
we haven't even gone to conventions yet. So
You haven't gone conventions?
no.
Conventions are
We were
weird.
going to do that in 2020, and then the whole thing happened.
We don't want to talk about 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Danny, let's go back to that real quick. Why the hell were you in a bathroom with somebody with your comics like that?
So I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, of course, and it's frowned on to for your superiors to support your business. So I just kind of met my boss in the bathroom. Was like, here's the comic, here's the money. It was like a drug deal, but it was hey, how you have to do it sometimes.
I guess there's weirder exchanges that have happened in the bathroom, so I'm glad it was just a comic you gave him.
Absolutely weirder things that have happened in the bathroom.
Oh man, that was good. All right, so that was Danny's quick takes. provided and brought to you by Wakanda Forever.
Marvel, come go see it in 2022 in theaters.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
And now we go right back to the show. Is there any movies you guys are excited to see coming up?
I haven't seen a movie like in a theater since 2020. No, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, Joker was like the last movie I saw in theaters. And then, but I want to see Shang-Chi very badly.
It was definitely worth going to the theater. We have a small theater here that, you know, it doesn't get a lot of traffic, but you know, it stays open, and they were showing it, so we always go there.
We saw it last Saturday. My son and I, and we enjoyed it. There was like maybe four or five other people in the theater with us. But it's definitely worth seeing in the theater if you can.
Yeah, I want to see that. Spider-Man, obviously, and Matrix, I guess.
Oh,
nice. Okay.
I enjoyed the Matrix trilogy, the original trilogy. All three movies, I liked them. But like now that you know this fourth one's coming out, people are like, "Oh, the second and third movie were trash and garbage," and I'm like, "Bro, how? Like like they had the epic moments in the second and third movie. The architect, like the highway chase, all that stuff was amazing. I don't see how people hate those movies."
See, I need to go back and watch all three. I've seen them all. I know I've seen them all, but I need to go back and rewatch it because it's been so long.
I have to watch the third one again. But I'd watched the first two on HBO Max because the whole trilogy is on there.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout out to HBO Max, I guess.
Shout out to Morgan Iverson for letting me use his HBO Max password.
Now we're going to be sued by Marvel and HBO Max things. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore that they even care about, like the sharing passwords. Do they even care about that anymore?
I think Netflix does.
Netflix doesn't. I don't know. They're like, we know you do it, but we still have so many subscribers. We don't care. Oh, did she give you a present?
Yes, she colored me a picture.
Oh, that's all right. Hold on, wait. Let's move this over so everybody can see. Danny's daughter drew a beautiful picture. Which daughter is that again?
That's Olivia.
All right, future artist Olivia, the future artist for Ace Blade issue 10.
Issue 10.
She's got to hone her skills before he puts her on there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I got him practicing. I got him in a sweatshop right now. Get those colors right. Use enough. That's the wrong person.
DJ's the editor. I think Danny froze. Dang.
I was wondering if there are any comics. That y'all read this week.
I actually did read a comic. I read a comic from Torrid Comics, not Taurus, but Torrid, Torrid comic, called Aegis Force. I think it's. He's a local creator here in California, and he's been doing his own comic called Bumper and Pinball. He has 4 issues done on his own. Actually, the name is Nicholas Garza, and he writes, draws, colors, letters, the entire book himself.
Ooh.
And he's done 4 issues of Bumper and Pinball, and he just produced this anthology all by himself with 4 stories in this one book. And I was like, how do you have time to do all this? Like, no, seriously, I mean, I can barely produce 2 comics a year, and that's with me doing one comic and an artist doing another comic. And this dude has produced 5 comics within the last 3, maybe 4 years, all on his own. That's crazy. And it was pretty fun. It was like it was a throwback in a way to the 90s comics where it's just a lot of action, crazy fights, things like that. A lot of fun. So that's what I read.
I love it. You read anything this week, Greg?
I actually forgot that I read a comic. I didn't finish it, so I don't know if that counts, but because I had to go to work. But I was reading The List, like the first issue of that, because I was actually reading it like research, because I'm trying to do like a holiday comic that's not
Oh.
connected to our universe, and
You just had to bring up holiday comics, huh?
and I was wondering if that comic's in any relation to what I want to do, and I was like, oh, sweet, it's not. It's not even at all the same thing. So that's awesome.
That's always good. That's always good.
Yeah.
I bring it up because I don't know if y'all know, but I just started collecting graded comics. Well, first of all, I started reading Hot Brass this week. Unlikely Hero Studios. It's it started off pretty good. I'm probably gonna finish it today. Got into that Justice League series that's going on right now. But this is what I wanted to show y'all. This 9.2 Joker 80th anniversary cover. This sketch cover by Neil Adams.
Oh,
I added to the collection this week.
Oh,
So,
wow.
That's a new thing. That's I guess I wasn't spending enough money, so now I'm going to spend more money on comics and start collecting.
Why are you flexing on us? I mean, come on.
No, because I'm like, I was already broke, and now I'm more broke because I want to start collecting comics. So
You got a Neil Adams sketch cover. You probably are broke. You have a Neil
I
Adams draw anything.
I got a good deal on it though. So
How many kids did you have to sell for that?
Actually, Stephanie's Olivia's in their drawing so that I can pay for next week's purchase. But talk about that later.
All right. Well, before we let you go, we do want to at least have Greg talk about his upcoming comic. Is it anthology? It's the Chronicles of Horror, right?
Yeah.
All right, and that's an anthology. So it's not just you; it's a bunch of other creators, correct?
Yep.
And it looks like I'm looking at the preview page on Kickstarter. It's an 8-story horror comic from Seer Nova Comics and Myers Press LLC. So what is that? How did that come about? Who's all involved? And do you guys need a writer and artist team?
Actually, probably for the next one, yeah. So it's going to be it's an annual series, and the first issue came out last year, but this one is a little more put together, not just because my story, I actually have stories that I wrote in it, but it's just longer, and because the first one there's only 4 stories, which I didn't think was enough. Yeah, more work.
And here I'm going to show the preview page so people can look at it. So Danny just put the link in the chat. But go ahead, finish. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So I have 2 stories in there. They're pretty messed up. One is actually kind of funny. It's still messed up, but it's really funny. And there is a reference to a certain show that we did talk about on this live stream. So that's actually the artist did that. Hector Barrero. He was the artist on that story. So he's like, oh, we both like this show, so I'm going to put this in there. I was like, okay. But yeah, it's 8 stories, and there's a stretch goal to get another story added that Jerome Gagnon, however you say his last name. He's like, oh, would you want to add this story? I'm like, as a stretch goal, yeah, because pages and money. So that's another 4 pages, and then there is a 1-page story from Hector's friend Martin that is going to be a backer goal because it's only 1 page. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And there's this whole TV theme around it. And I actually reread. I didn't even reread. Me and this other artist that's on the comic that we created the video with, and a couple of the Kickstarter page in general, Josh Harris. We went through the first issue, and the ending happens in the 90s, and I was like, that's amazing, because we have this whole VHS aesthetic to it, and I was like, that's awesome. So we're running with that in the second issue, and it literally, the second issue takes place after the first one. You don't need to read the first one if you don't want to, but it literally takes place right after that. And he actually, beginning of the trailer is actually going to be a page that's in the anthology.
Yeah.
And like the beginning page to like set everything up, and then every story acts as like an episode or like a show or segment or whatever. That's like the Twilight Zone kind of.
Yeah. I love that, and I like the idea of adding pages of stretch goals. We recently did that with the last Ace Blade Kickstarter that we did, and you know, we found it helpful because it doesn't add a whole nother book to a stretch goal. Like that's ridiculous to do that, I think. But
unless it's a digital book,
digital book, that might be it. But
I did like a for Seer Chronicles. I'm like, oh, if we hit this stretch goal, but I didn't like do the math. Plus, I pay out of my own paycheck, so I'm like, oh, if we hit this stretch goal, then ink will come out, and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, now I got to pay for that.
Yeah. It's like Morgan wants to, Morgan Iverson, he was like, if we get this number 2 funded, everybody will get a copy of number 3. I'm like, wait a minute, we haven't even done number 3 yet. We can't do that. We can't do that.
I mean, it's cool to have like stretch goals and have these aspirations, but you got to really sit down and financially look at if it's even worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us are coming up with stretch goals and they sound cool in our head. And then when we actually break down and we're like, oh, this is going to cost a shitload more money for me to do this. So that is, you're right that you have to really consider what it is your stretch goal is going to be, and maybe consider more digital things or smaller items instead of full books. Because a lot of us as creators are getting hampered financially because we're, being overzealous in what we can give as a stretch goal.
Right.
Yeah, I figured out how much money it costs. Well, it varies depending on the artist and everything, but it's thousands of dollars. That. Yeah.
Well,
That's a
want to become famous? No, I don't want. We are already famous. Big Hide. What the hell? Wow. Okay, so I guess our Twitch stream is live, and we only get spam there. Yes, that means we're famous. Dude. All right. Well, this has been fun, gentlemen. Greg, is there anything you want us to maybe talk about, or you want to bring up that we didn't get to touch on today?
I would say our website, but I kind of like went over that, and
that's the SeerNovaComics.com, right?
Yeah, and I would like promote the services thing, but like I don't really want to do that yet because we still have to figure out like people that would, do the services besides the writing and stuff. I would be doing that, but there's like artists that I need to write down on a list still, and
okay,
we have this whole like crowdfunding thing that I'm going to be doing because I did that for free once for someone, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that again.
Okay,
it's a lot of work, and I already knew it was a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work. So you're planning on offering, service like connecting people with artists and writers and stuff like that to get their comics made. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for that, mostly because my book is already on your platform. So I'm excited when you can promote my stuff anytime. All right. Well, besides SeerNovaComics.com, where else can we maybe find your work, like social media, things like that?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even though I'm not really on Twitter because it's Twitter. TikTok, but I'm not like on there. I just post like podcast episodes and stuff on there.
So you're not like Danny doing like all the TikTok dances and all those things.
No, just like I have to figure out like the actual platform. Like I know what they want on there. It's just like the fact of, do I want to record myself doing something? Because who wants to hear my voice? So.
Well, hopefully a lot of people, because we have you on our podcast. So hopefully
everybody wants to hear your voice, man. This is it's the platforms are made for that. Like, and I always tell people too, like there is a platform for what you do. Like Instagram, I think is for promotion and like showing what's great about your life. Take a picture of the greatest moments. Your food would go good on Instagram. Facebook is more about conversations and staying in touch with people. TikTok is so random right now that you can literally find a niche for anything. But Twitter is also where I try to stay away from, because it just seems like a bunch of it's a nonsense most of the time. But
it's hilarious because I love Twitter right now, and not because it's nonsense, just because I'm able to filter out what I don't want to see more.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, I guess then let's go ahead and end the show. Danny, do you have any other questions for Greg that you want to bring up?
No, I'll send him a message with my question.
Wow, you gonna meet him in the bathroom?
Questions.
All right. Well, everybody, please go to SeerNovaComics.com. Check out the platform. Buy some books from them, please. Danny, where can we find your work, your Instagrams, all that good stuff?
Me, if you want to find Danny, just look for The Ace Blade on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
All right. The website?
Oh, yeah. And the website is www.fourthwallpros.com.
All right. All right. And if you, for some reason, want to follow me, I am on Twitter, Instagram at Taurus Comics. Also, my website is tauruscomics.com. If this is the first time you've listened to our episode, please, thank you. We appreciate it. Please make sure that you are going and liking, following, sharing, because all those things help us with the algorithms. But you can always go back to our website, fourtailspodcast.com, to check out all our past episodes. We are available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, I think is one. Any podcasting platform you can find us. And we're going to hopefully we'll be doing more of these live streams. I think I'll talk to Danny. Maybe we can do our next episode as a live stream. Real quick, though, just as a self-promotional, I do want to say, if you are in the Sacramento area, next Saturday, the 25th of September, from 2 to 8 p.m., I will be at the Pull Up a Chair Expo at the Sacramento Youth Center. There will be myself, a couple other comic creators, Shane Q from The Voice TV show. He will be there. There's going to be food, beer. We'll have a good time. So check it out. Look up Pull Up a Chair Foundation on Facebook, and you can get tickets through there. But until the next week, but actually, who do we have next week? Next week we have Robert Love, who is a creator from. He's produced his actual work through Dark Horse. He's produced the 13 through Dark Horse a few years ago. Chocolate Thunder, if you guys are familiar with that, and he has a new book coming out called Children of the Plague. He is from Sacramento, so it's going to be a fun time. Hopefully, he is our second West Coast person to actually be on the show.
We'll see.
But this is going to be a good time. But until then, sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
Music provided by my brother, Quix Made It. Find him online in YouTube, Instagram, and SoundCloud.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.